Good evening and welcome to tonight's special assignment. I'm your host, Ashraf Garda. It has been 20 years since Rwanda experienced the genocide, where 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus were killed. Last week, we brought you a documentary that our team back then put together on the reasons behind the genocide, the scale of the devastation, and how it impacted the people as they tried to reconcile. In tonight's program, we focus on the worrying reports of wide-scale human rights abuses and the alleged suppression of dissent, reportedly by the Rwandan government and its agents, who are apparently sent across the world, where members of opposition parties say they are being hunted down by President Paul Kagame's agents to silence them. This documentary is produced by Busisiwe Ntuli and Cleopatra Jones.
20 years after 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus were maimed because of politically driven ethnic cleansing, the memories of loss and violence remain etched in their minds. But the country sought reconciliation, unity and progress, however difficult it was. Today, President Paul Kagame's regime stands accused of turning against this vision.
If I rejected that and I opposed that, would that mean that I'm a traitor? No.
I was born in Burundi in 1972, and when I was 1 year, we immigrated, went to Uganda with my parents. It was my mother actually, and my grandparents. So I grew up in Uganda, that's where I studied. It was December 91 when I joined the liberation movement. We overthrew the regime in Kigali in 1994 with Kagame.
Born in exile, Kennedy joined the Rwandan Patriotic Army as a young boy, along with fellow Tutsis exiled since 1959, determined to take back the country from Hutu domination.
The Rwandese Patriotic Front was a movement dominated by Tutsis, who were refugees by then almost 30 years. And the regime in Kigali by that time, which was the Hutu regime, they didn't want us Tutsis to come back. They were saying the country is small. So we had no another alternative. All we younger boys, we had to join and we liberate our country.
He believes that their struggle was subverted after they successfully dislodged the Hutu-led government.
The pillar for the whole movement was to liberate the country, unite the country, stop the problem of the refugees, reconciling the two tribes, the Tutsis and the Hutus.
Today, Kennedy is once again living in exile, one of thousands of Rwandan nationals living abroad because they oppose the current regime of President Paul Kagame. He says his first show of opposition was when, after the war, he did not agree with decisions for them to go into Congo.
What I have just witnessed, those 5 years which I was in that gorilla, was enough. So when that the first invasion of Congo came, I decided not to participate, and I decided to come down in South Africa.
He says the mere decision to leave the army was considered a betrayal.
I had to walk all the way from Rwanda to here. It took me almost 6 months to arrive here. When I arrived here, it was very difficult because I had to stay on the street almost for 3 months before I got a friend of mine who gave me an accommodation in Hillbrow.
Under very difficult circumstances, he worked as a security guard and put himself through law school. In 2005, he finally graduated with a law degree. He believes that his opposition to the Rwandan government has brought him in collision with that regime. His passport, along with 25 others, including some of their children, were cancelled, a decision the Rwandan government defends.
That's the right of Rwanda to cancel or grant passports. If you abuse the usage of passports, the passport can be stopped or cancelled. If you are in different movement that undermine the security of Rwanda, why should you be granted that facility?
Kennedy says he's had a few attempts on his life, which he believes to be a result of his political activism. He attributes his recent accident to another one of those attempts, including while in hospital.
They wanted to strangle me at the hospital, but thank God we knew it when they already finalized the plan, but some of the informers, they told us what was happening.
Kennedy's story is consistent with what seems to be a bizarre war that is being waged on South African soil. Earlier this year, the former Rwandan spy chief, Patrick Karegeya, was found killed at a Johannesburg hotel.
What they have done is just made us stronger. The first time they took him away for 6 months, we didn't know where he was. He came back, we were stronger.
Karegeya was exiled to South Africa since 2008 after he fell out with President Kagame's government, and some attribute his death to this strained relationship. After his death, President Kagame shocked the world with his comments.
Prime Minister again clever aramubwira ngoya ngo ndabwira uwo ari we wese. Nibyo Prime Minister. Nanjye ndashaka kubwira uwo ari we wese. Uwo ari we wese. Imana iduha kubaka, iduha ingufu zo kubaka, iduha kugerageza kubaka ibyiza, ariko iduha n'ingufu zo kubirinda.
Since 2000, Karegeya and Kagame have had disagreements on issues of policy, issues of justice, issues of freedom of place, issues of basic rights to humanity as a whole.
4 months later, the family is yet to come to terms with his death in the absence of its resolution. Here, David remembers his days in the army.
There's some sort of a retreat. This is Nikisenyi, the border of Congo and Kigali and Rwanda. Had to come to terms with exactly what happens. You know, every day we talk and say, I can't believe this is happening. I'm still living in a dream.
But to the Rwandan government, Karegeya betrayed his country.
I will not deny that Karegeya was a serious enemy of Rwanda. He has been a chief spy. Any country in the world will not allow or be happy to see the chief spy branding himself as an opposition. However, I will not comment on his death. South African police should be better placed to comment on the death of Karegeya.
I can indicate that suspects were identified. We have been working on the case for some time. And of course, those suspects are not in South Africa. And efforts are being made to have those suspects to come to South Africa to, be brought to book.
The divisions ran so deep, Karegeya's body could not be taken back home.
We tried everything possible to take the body to Uganda. It never happened. And we decided to ask the South African government to give us this. If the regime change or if there's another green light, we would have preferred taking resume the body and take it back to our country.
In a moment, a high-profile attempted murder case, which could have serious implications for the Rwandan government, is currently being heard in the South African courts.
South Africa is one of the many countries in the world where politically exiled Rwandans have found refuge. One of them is Frank Ntwali, who as a young boy vowed to one day contribute towards the development of his country. He came to South Africa in 2000, initially as a student funded by the Rwandan government, but he soon found himself on the opposing side of the regime.
We were vocal about the term limits, the manner in which the Senate were being chosen, and a lot of powers that were allotted to the president. Without any warning or anything, I was told by the embassy officials that my bursary has been terminated, and if I want reasons, I should go to Kigali.
He still managed to complete his legal studies. He is currently in the regional leadership of the Rwandan National Congress, which calls for unity and democracy, one of a number of opposition parties outside of Rwanda.
Well, I would say actually it is very sad because the RPF we joined or were part of, we believed actually had a proper vision for the country. We were talking about eliminating the refugee crisis. RPF that had come to actually eliminate the problem of discrimination between Hutus and the Tutsis. RPF today has entrenched that to the levels whereby actually today you are not allowed to say if you are a Hutu or a Tutsi simply because to stigmatize that if you are a Hutu you cannot claim any right because you're actually just a Rwandese.
You cannot have 1 million people lift out of poverty in 5 years, out of then 10 million people in Rwanda, if you are really basing your democracy on one ethnic group. So people say anything now. This is the first time in Rwanda that there is no identity card.
Stories about Rwandan spies and agents following people around are endless within this community. Politically aligned Rwandans say they live in fear. At times in a world of spies, separating between reality and perception can be difficult. Many of those we spoke to would rather speak off the record. However, we caught up with some of those who were willing to speak.
I used to meet most of the time Rwandan officials. What most of that guy wanted from me is to provide him the addresses of Rwandan which are in opposition. Most of them he wanted people from ANC, which is Kanyumba Nyamwasa, Karegeya, Frank Ntwali, Emir, Ferdinand Barigira. He wanted to know where those people stay, where they like to go, especially where they like to drink. Yeah, he does offer. He does offer you some money.
We also spoke to Jennifer Rwamugira, a PhD student who says she was also approached by government officials from Rwanda.
They said they want me to work with them in South Africa as their agent, and what they want me to do, they want me to poison General Kayumba Nyamwasa and Colonel Patrick Karegeya, and if I can also poison Ntwali, Frank, and Emile, plus also Kenneth Gihana.
She says she later informed the intended victims and the authorities.
Early in the morning, I also received a call saying that they've sent me $500. I should go and get that money. I buy the handset and I buy different SIM cards so that I can be like inserting the SIM card, one SIM card a week and another SIM card another week. Then I keep on alternating.
This is the receipt for about $530 that she presented as proof of that transaction. Now she's worried about her security as well as her family's. A case that threatens to fracture an already fragile relationship between the South African and Rwandan governments is currently being heard in court. Kennedy Gihana is representing the complainant. General Kayumba Nyamwaza, an exiled Rwandan national and ex-army chief who has been in South Africa since 2010. A few weeks ago, he was nearly attacked at his home when a group of armed men entered his safe house. He, together with his family, were removed following an intelligence tip-off. This seems to have been the final straw for the South African government.
Once you are accredited and given the status of a diplomat in a particular country, there are laws that you need to abide by. And once you are in violation of those laws, including the Vienna Convention, we don't have a choice but to send you back home. That's what we did after an attack on the safe house where General Nyamwasa is being kept. The investigation by the security agencies in South Africa pointed them to certain individuals who would have been part of the people that planned and coordinated that attack. Now, you would understand that any country would deem that to be a very serious offense because it touches on our sovereignty, on our territorial integrity.
The motive of for them to be expelled was not detailed. To tell us that those diplomats went there with guns or sent people with guns. However, on a bilateral level, we have a dialogue with South Africa. We hope that through that dialogue we will exactly know if those people were on an individual basis or they had a government mission to do so.
It was not the first time that an attempt on his life was made. Currently 6 men, of which 3 are Rwandans, 2 Tanzanians and Ugandan national, have been charged with attempted murder, among others. According to the state's case, on the 19th of June 2010, General Kayumba Nyamwasa was shot at while on his way back from a shopping mall driven by his driver. As they allegedly approached the gate, a man holding a gun advanced towards their car. According to the state, the driver pulled down the window and the suspect shot at him, after which Kayumba got out of the car, struggled with the assailant who later produced a knife. Kayumba managed to escape, but the bullet is still lodged in his lower spinal cord. The state alleges that the driver was an accomplice, but he denies this. Kayumba believes that this was an attempted assassination instigated by the Rwandan government.
The last straw that broke the camel's back was in the year 2000, when the transitional government virtually came to an end. The president who had been president of the transitional government was forced to resign, and subsequently was picked and put in prison on fabricated charges. But the most bizarre thing was that they wanted me to be part of the executors of that program because he was supposed to be arrested by the military intelligence, which was under me, and I said no, that's not possible. That time I went. But later on in 2003, went for elections, and blatantly and open, in the gaze of every Rwandan, RPF was stealing elections, up to 95% of elections.
We got to 95, so what? It was the beginning of democracy. The president is seen as their hero. How many President Mandela got out of jail when he came out of jail? How big was it, the vote? You tell me.
In its heads of argument, the state also questions the role that the Rwandan government played in allegedly attempting to discredit a witness. The apparent role of an embassy employee was also questioned. The Rwandan government has appointed a local legal firm, Van der Merwe and Associates, to observe the trial and report back to it in any matter that could be of interest.
So is Rwanda a democracy? Find out after this.
Since 1994, Rwanda has enjoyed the goodwill of the world because of its horrific past of the genocide. Since then, Paul Kagame has been praised for, among others, developing Rwanda's economy, even though the extent is contested. But politically, there seems to be growing opposition linked to worrying reports of human rights abuses.
It's a police state whereby nobody talks, nobody criticizes, nobody associates with a person who is not approved by government. Nobody moves out of the country and go wherever he wants to go without reporting anywhere. Everybody is spying on the other.
We got a constitution that tells us how to govern Rwanda, taking into account factors that destabilize the society and preventive measures for the future. So in some of our safeguarding measures, other classical democracies will not see us as an open society.
In 2012, Amnesty International released a report titled Shrouded in Secrecy, in which it detailed wide-scale human rights abuses by the Rwandan military intelligence in the country, especially towards the country's 2010 elections.
Our report in 2012, Shrouded in Secrecy, looked at unlawful detention and allegations of torture and ill-treatment by the Rwandan military intelligence. A number of these individuals began to be released or were transferred to the ordinary prison system. We found out that they had reported to have been tortured and subject to other ill treatment. They'd been subjected to serious beatings, prolonged incommunicado detention without access to lawyers, to doctors, to family members.
They should mind their own business. We also look at our human rights. We have our institutions, and Rwanda is not a country under colonial, under UN governance. So why do they make Rwanda their guinea pig? We also handle we have courts in Rwanda, we have human rights commissions in Rwanda, and as I said, the borders of Rwanda are open. So people who really feel threatened in Rwanda, we could have seen big inflows or outflows of refugees, but that's not the case.
Many names of high-level government officials, journalists and members of non-governmental organizations have been reported to either being exiled, missing, detained, and some have died mysteriously, and these are linked to their opposition to the Rwandan government.
We have a Human Rights Commission in Rwanda. If you take Rwanda compared to other African countries, and you count the violence in the country and how it is controlled by the police, you'll find that it is the least violent country in the continent. So we wonder where these reports come from. I think there is a lot of attention paid to Rwanda. When they say large scale, can they number the people and can they demonstrate circumstances of their death?
The Rwandan government has declared General Kayumba Nyamwasa, Colonel Patrick Karegeya, Dr. Theogene Rudisingwa and Dr. Gerald Gahima enemies of the state, and they were sentenced to 24 and 20 years jail terms, respectively, in absentia.
If you are charged in absentia, you can respond by bringing in a lawyer to make your case, to discuss the charge if it is too high. So nothing has happened. So they probably know what they did and they want to play politics internationally and attract sympathy for those who don't know their history and what they did in Rwanda, and they don't care about their own case.
If I say you want to change the constitution and stand for a third term, and he calls me a traitor. If I say, why are you killing Rwandans, he calls me a traitor. I say, why are you stealing elections, and he calls me a traitor. That's not what should be done. I am opposing the betrayal of the original ideals of the RPF.
Meanwhile, life goes on for the Rwandan exiles. As they remember what life used to be, they also imagine what it can be. In the meantime, they try to live as normal a life as possible, such as starting families, in the hope that one day they will return to their country.
Now, what's your take on this issue? Well, you can post your comments in one of three ways: Twitter, Facebook, or via email. And that's it for tonight. Thank you for watching. Do tune in again next week when we continue to point out the issues that matter.